But if the bees keep dying off, it won't matter anyway. Last week, the World Health Organization admitted that it still can't explain the massive honeybee die-off that is taking place. In America, for the fourth year in a row, more than a third of the nation's bee colonies failed to survive the winter. According to the annual survey by the Apiary Inspectors of America and the U.S. government's Agricultural Research Service, the number of managed honeybee colonies in the United States fell by 34% last winter. Now, why is that important? Up to a third of all the food we eat depends on honeybee pollination. And to top it all, last month, an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico exploded. The inferno killed 11 workers and sank the rig in 5,000 feet of water. The open shaft is now pumping millions of gallons of oil into the Gulf. Damage to the fishing industry is estimated to eventually top $14 billion. As bad as Hurricane Katrina was, there are those who are already suggesting that this disaster will be far more catastrophic for the region. It will literally take years for the mess to be cleaned up. In fact, there's a very real possibility that the fishing industry may be crippled for generations by this disaster. Why are all these bad things happening to America? I believe the old adage that those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. America has turned a blind eye to any lesson which originates in the Bible. And the warnings given in the Bible have proven to be 100% correct. I'll be back after this message. Folks, we've just completed a major overhaul of our website, HalLindsey.com, in order to bring you more convenient news and perspective than ever before. Here, let me show you what I mean. You'll find continuously updated news feeds that cover a wide range of top domestic and international stories. You can also watch current and previous editions of the Hal Lindsey Report on demand 24 hours a day. It's ready when you are. Plus, there's the latest and most exciting edition, my new video blog. Each week I'll share scriptural teaching and insight on late-breaking events from around the world as they relate to the prophetic scenario. Perspective you can find only on this website. You just might want to make it your new home page. You'll also find convenient ways to support the broadcast and order my books, DVDs, and audio teachings through our safe and secure online store. Sign up for our email list, and I'll send previews of each week's program right to your inbox. You can also send us your comments, suggestions, and prayer requests. Keep them PG, please. Stay informed and help us share the message of the gospel with others around the world at thenewhallindsey.com. President Obama recently reassured European leaders that if the Israeli-Palestinian peace process remains stalled in November, he will personally convene an international peace summit. This seems very likely for two reasons. The first is the most obvious. It's an election year, so every move is calculated first and foremost to maintain control of the Congress. Secondly, the only reason for convening such an international peace summit would be to impose a peace settlement on both sides. Since the president's policies suggest the imposed settlement will favor the Palestinian or Muslim side, the timing is critical. The summit must convene near enough to Election Day to impress voters with all the hoopla and international spectacle. However, a solution cannot be imposed until after the voters have spoken. You see, chances are his intentions will outrage many Americans when they're revealed. And the administration can't take a chance on that. Palestinian Authority officials are telling reporters that they recently received assurances from U.S. Middle East envoy George Mitchell that time is running out for Israel. He apparently implied to them that if Israel doesn't start complying with U.S.-backed Arab demands soon, President Obama will force a showdown. The Palestinians also leaked word of their intention to unilaterally declare independence if Israel does not meet their demands by October. There's little doubt that the United Nations would immediately recognize Palestinian statehood. There's even less doubt that the Obama administration will not act to prevent this unilateral action by the Palestinian side. As I reported last week, even liberal Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer believes that in view of these facts, the Palestinians have concluded that there's no reason to come back to the bargaining table. They can just sit back, let the Obama administration do the bargaining for them. The latest giant being tackled by the administration is Wall Street and the banking industry. It says that the proposed financial reform legislation is necessary to prevent another banking crisis. And like the other so-called reform packages, the plan is to ram the bills through Congress before anybody has a chance to read them. It's absolutely unbelievable to me that one administration, in a little over a year, could so lower congressional legislative standards that voting for a bill first and reading it later no longer raises eyebrows. Ostensibly, the legislation is intended to regulate the financial markets, but the fact is that the same banks that became too big to fail are also too big to regulate. The 6 biggest banks in the United States now possess assets equivalent to 60% of America's gross national product. These 6 banks have become household names. They became household names when the government took tax dollars from you and gave it to them. They're Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo. Dubbed too big to fail mainly because they were all major contributors to both political parties. Every single one of them accepted taxpayer bailout money. 2 years ago, they were allegedly so cash-strapped they couldn't make loans. The resulting credit crunch forced the government to restock them with money. But don't worry, they're doing okay now. By acting in concert, these 6 banks could force the government to toe the line, or they could literally bring down the U.S. economy if they decided it was in their best interest. That's why the financial reform package contains a permanent bailout provision. That's also why there is no hue and cry from the banking community at the prospect of new congressional regulations. Why? They wrote them. The bailout provision is like setting aside blackmail money and telling the blackmailer how much is available for his demand. Nobody should be particularly surprised, therefore, to learn that it's exactly the figure the blackmailer had in mind. Financial reform is a smokescreen. Liberals and their money trust cronies enjoy quoting Thomas Jefferson when it suits their purpose. But you don't hear them quote this warning very often. In 1816, Jefferson said, "If the American people allow private banks to control the issuance of their currency, first by inflation and then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all their property until their children will wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered." The president of the European Central Bank says that the only way to prevent another worldwide banking crisis is to give more power to the banks. In prepared remarks, Jean-Claude Trichet told the Council on Foreign Relations that global governance is the only way to forestall a total international economic collapse.